We are all the way back in the beginning of the Bible, page 6, if you are.
I thought y'all might want to hear it again.
So you better turn to that page now. Just saying. All right, page 6, and I'm going to put a finger or bulletin, something in there on page 8, because we're going to skip over there. We're going to start with Genesis chapter 6, verses 5 through 22. I told you it's kind of long. And then we're going to switch over to chapter 9, verses 8 through 17. The Lord saw how great man's wickedness on the earth had become, and that every inclination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil all the time. The Lord was grieved that he had made man on the earth, and his heart was filled with pain. So the Lord said, I will wipe mankind, whom I have created from the face of the earth, men and animals and creatures that move along the ground and birds of the air, for I am grieved that I have made them. But Noah found favor in the eyes of the Lord. This is the account of Noah. Noah was a righteous man, blameless among the people of his time, and he walked with God. Noah had 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Now the earth was corrupt in God's sight and was full of violence. God saw how corrupt the earth had become, for all the people on earth had corrupted their ways. So God said to Noah, I'm going to put an end to all people, for the earth is filled with violence because of them. I am surely going to destroy both them and the earth. So make yourself an ark of cypress wood, make rooms in it and coat it with pitch inside and out. This is how you are to build it. The ark is to be 450 feet long, 75 feet wide, and 45 feet high. Make a roof for it and finish the ark to within 18 inches of the top. Put a door in the side of the ark and make lower, middle, and upper decks. I'm going to bring floodwaters on the earth to destroy all life under the heavens, every creature that has breath of life in it. Everything on earth will perish. But I will establish my covenant with you, and you will enter the ark, you and your sons and your wife and your sons' wives with you. You are to bring into the ark 2 of all living creatures, male and female, to keep them alive with you. 2 of every kind of bird, of every kind of animal, and of every kind of creature that moves along the ground will come to you to be kept alive. You are to take every kind of food that is to be eaten and store it away as food for you and for them. Noah did everything just as God commanded him. Now let's scoot over to chapter 9, over here on page 8, beginning of verse 8. After the flood. Then God said to Noah, and to his sons with him, I now establish my covenant with you and with your descendants after you, and with every living creature that was with you, the birds, the livestock, and all the wild animals, all those that came out of the ark with you, every living creature on earth. I establish my covenant with you. Never again will all life be cut off by the waters of a flood. Never again will there be a flood to destroy the earth. And God said, this is the sign of the covenant I am making between me and you and every living creature with you, a covenant for all generations to come. I have set my rainbow in the clouds, and it will be the sign of the covenant between me and the earth. Whenever I bring clouds over the earth and the rainbow appears in the clouds, I will remember my covenant between me and you and all living creatures of every kind. Never again will the waters become a flood to destroy all life. Whenever the rainbow appears in the clouds, I will see it and remember the everlasting covenant between God and all living creatures of every kind on the earth. So God said to Noah, this is the sign of the covenant I have established between me and all life on the earth. This is the word of God for the people of God.
Thanks be to God.
In case you're wondering if I'm drinking coffee, I'm not. I probably should, but I'm not. I'm drinking water. And that was a whole lot nicer than having that big Yeti cup up here. So, anyway, Noah and the flood. Gosh, I have preached on that. I have read that sermon, that section of scripture. You've probably heard stories about Noah and the ark and all the animals. There's even a little song of it. Okay. We've heard that from the time, we were way. So what possible thing could be new about this story? And as I was going through, now you might be asking, well, preacher, if you feel that way, why are you preaching on it? And that's a good question. Let me begin by saying Happy New Year. Totally throwing it off. Happy New Year. We are starting today a selection of scriptures that go through the Bible, where we're going to hit every major story in the Old Testament, all 4 Gospels, and then the letters after that, over a period of 4 years. Now, we're not going to do every little verse. We're not going to do that. But during the first part of the year, we'll be working with the Old Testament, beginning here in Genesis. And then when it comes to just before Christmas, we're going to go into Matthew's Gospel this year. Next year will be Mark's Gospel, God willing. The year after that will be Luke, and then finally John's Gospel. We don't spend a whole lot of time in there. And then after Easter, we look at the Acts of the Apostles and other stories like that. So we get a nice breadth of it. It's called the narrative lectionary. Now, obviously, boy, that's a lot of stuff listed out. But if things do come up, I will break with that. Or if I stand up before you and God places a message on my heart, I'll just stop, drop it, and do it what God wants me to do. But this does give us a means of preparing. And so we are starting that, and as usual, we're starting with the book of Genesis. And this year, it begins with this story of Noah and the flood. So that's why I'm preaching. In your bulletin, there's a little handout that has some daily readings if you want to do that, to follow along. We have those for each week in this. I don't think Pastor Wayne will be preaching on this topic next week, but most times we'll have something like that. And there's also some handouts for children. I don't know that we have them printed up this week, but we will have them so the kids can also be doing this, and the families can have something to talk about at the lunch table together. That by way of telling you why I'm preaching out of Noah. But I was struck by this. I was thinking, we've had our grandkids the last couple of weeks, and I see this probably more so in my oldest grandson, Xander. I've seen this more often, but I can definitely relate to it. Have you ever gone to start up a drawing, or maybe you're building something, or making something out of clay, or you're putting some stuff together in wood, or you're doing a sketch or a painting or something of that nature, and you get to a point with it, and like I said, I see this especially with younger kids, and I can certainly relate to myself. You get to a point where it's almost perfect. It's almost perfect. And then there's that one line that just goes off into space. You're like, how did that happen? Or, the colors aren't right. Or something, the wood doesn't match up. I put together a couple of items. So we had a TV stand and a headboard that we got recently. It was one of those you got to put together. And now these came together nicely. They came together very nicely. But I've had other ones where it's like, how did I get a 1/4 inch off? How's that peg fit up? And you get frustrated when things like that happen, don't you? You've got it almost done, and you got it just about right, but something happens. And what I've seen Xander do, what I've done in the past, not with large pieces of furniture, but you just sort of crumple it all up and just sort of throw it out and start all over again. You ever done that? Yeah, I've seen some heads. Yeah, we know what it is. And what occurred to me is, wow, God's done that too. God's done that too. He created a perfect world. We're told in the first couple of chapters of the Bible in Genesis that, God makes this perfect creation. And there's a sun to bring light during the day. There's a moon to provide some kind of light at night. We kind of know a little bit more about how that works now, but it's there. You look out at the stars, you see the vastness of space. You know, you look through a telescope, you see how huge all of this is. He creates this beautiful world, and it's got all kinds of plants and animals, and you know, Adam and Eve are, you know, they're in perfect relationship with all of creation, and then it does go south, it goes bad, and it gets to a point where everything becomes so corrupt, and everybody's doing everything that they want to do, and there's violence, and we're not really told exactly what is going on, but we know that it's bad. And it's so bad that it grieves God. And where there was this once perfect creation, I mean, here's something else that Scripture tells us about this creation in the beginning. There aren't even any clouds in the sky. It hasn't rained. The plants are fed from waters underneath, and there's springs where you can get a fresh drink of water, and the livestock can be fed. There's no rain. It's like it's beautiful weather all the time. And then God sees all that humanity has done with all of this, and how they're being violent with each other and violent with creation and all this. And he decides, you know what? I'm just going to crumple all this up and just start all over again. But he doesn't. Not exactly. He finds someone, Noah, and through Noah, he saves 8 human beings, Noah, his wife, his 3 sons, their wives. And rather than destroying every creature, wild and tame, or everything that crawls on the earth, he gets 2 of every kind that come to this boat. And people are scratching their head. What do you need a boat for? You know, I mean, seriously. What do you need a boat for? He builds this 450-foot boat. And I think there's a model for it somewhere up in Kentucky, I believe. People have gone and visited, but I don't know if it's quite as well put together as that one. But anyway, he causes his people to be saved through the flood. And again, everything is perfect except for this one thing, and God still, his mercy is still such that he causes his people to be saved. And one thing I learned about this story that I did not know before, Hebrew has, all the words in Hebrew consist of 3 consonants. It's called a root word. And there's different ways of expressing those consonants, different ways of putting some vowels and stuff in there to create different words. But it turns out that the word for corruption and sin and all that humanity had done, that root word, which I'm not even going to try to pronounce, is the same as the destruction that came upon the earth. It's the same root word. In other words, the destruction that came about through the flood is intimately related to the sin that the people committed. I'll get back to that in a minute. Because that has some meaning for us today. But what we see in the story isn't just the cute boat and the animals coming on there, but it's the extent at which God is willing to go to restore and to reconcile people. And it's also a sign of great mercy. Here are people that, well, when we read about him later on in the Bible, Noah goes on to become the first vintner, if you know that story. He's the first one to make wine. And he winds up drunk and naked on a beach. Who hasn't had that happen to him? Don't show me hands. And I remember reading through the Bible the first time and saying to myself, my gosh, these people are awful. You know, you read stories about some of these, especially some of the Old Testament people. And yet God is still able to use them. He's able to use Noah. He's able to use these people. Something happens throughout all this in God. God changes something. Because even though as a child might take a drawing that is less than perfect and crumple it up and throw it out, and as much as God may have wanted to do that, God chose instead to work with what he had. He chose instead to work with imperfect people. Even this Noah guy, and all the people that followed after him, and to never again cause that kind of destruction to take place. He puts his rainbow in the heavens to remind us. It says, I will see the rainbow and I'll remember. I don't think God ever forgot. I think it's really there more to remind us of this covenant that we share together with God. God's love will never leave us. God's mercy will never fail us. We may fail 100 times, but God's mercy still remains. That root word that means both the offense and the consequence of that offense. That root word, it reminds us that when we disobey God, it's that sin. It's that disobedience itself which is punishing us. The flood that came about in the very beginning was a consequence of mankind's disobedience, violence towards each other, disobedience and sin, separation from God. And it's a reminder to us that when we are failing, when we are going our own way, doing whatever we want, because we may think that God does not see, or God does not care, or the lightning didn't come. And even though it may rain for several days, we still need to build an ark. The fact is, all of this does matter very much to God. Because it's our sins that hurt us. It's our sins that bring about that. But God has made covenant. God has made covenant to never again utterly destroy. Yes, we see hurricanes and one from another. We see tornadoes. We see all earthquakes. We see all kinds of destruction. That is not God's anger towards people. Those are symptoms of a broken creation. It was broken millennia ago, millions of years ago, if you will, but a long time ago. And all of creation, Paul tells us, is groaning for the revealing of God's children. God will use any means necessary, including sending his only Son, to die on our behalf, to restore and to make perfect that which once was perfect. But rather than tossing everything out, rather than throwing everything away and starting all over again, God's working with us. God's working with us with our mistakes and our failures, with our problems and our hands. And God will restore and heal and bring about reconciliation. So here in the very beginning of Scripture, when all seems lost, when all seems hopelessly broken, we see where God's mercy still endures. And we see that it works with imperfect people, because even though Noah is righteous, he still has his failures. And throughout Scripture we find people with very